Yes, Tony.
How are you? Hey, I'm sorry about that. Hey, McCarthy's a no-brainer here, Mike. I mean, this guy Rhule, I agree, bad resume, not a good resume at all. The other point is, McCarthy's not going to learn another job. The guy's proven. Does it come down to just dollars on the contract between coaches?
I don't know what it comes down to. I don't know if it's they want a new face, they want a new idea. Listen, clearly these teams are leaning towards these young coaches. They really are. The Jet one's a little trickier though because the Jets have had a bad run with their guys, obviously.
Yeah.
Number two, the one time in their history they went for a college coach, it turned into an utter disaster because obviously Lou Holtz was like a laughingstock. So that kind of scarred them for life with that. So he doesn't have an NFL resume. It's going to be, listen, you're going to hear, if he gets hired, there's going to be a lot of screams. That's all there is. That doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means there's going to be a lot of screams. That's all.
I mean, he's got to put a staff together, which is just hire
very
McCarthy
hard.
Guys
and for a college guy, very hard for a college. McCarthy, much easier. Look at Arians. Arians had his whole staff set within one day. Named his whole staff.
Yeah,
now,
Mike.
The Bears tried to pull a little fast one here when they lost Fangio. They made evidently a bigger offer to Todd Bowles than Tampa did, and have tried to steal him from Tampa. So there's a little bit of a war going on for Bowles right now between Chicago and Tampa.
Well, as far as
so Bowles has now decided to go back to the Bucs. So he evidently there have been talk of him going to the Bears. Now he's going back to the Bucs. Go ahead.
Hey, as far as age, McCarthy's not an old man. I mean,
no, he's 55, 58?
He's right where you want him to be. It's a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer.
He's a solid coach, and right now they need. Listen, I'm not against hiring a bright assistant for the right organization. I think right now this organization needs a front man. They need some gravitas. Their general manager is not an out front guy. He's not that type. He's a guy who wants to just go scout and be quiet. He doesn't want to be a media guy. He's not a media guy. Doesn't want to be a media guy. So you need a face of the franchise, and you need someone with gravitas, and that's what McCarthy gives them. Mike in the Poconos. What's up, Mike?
Mike, I agree with the last caller. McCarthy's a no-brainer, and it could come down to money. But I'm hearing some good things about Todd Monken. What do you hear about him? And
I would not. Again, a very hard sell for the Jets. A guy who's got a decent rep as a offensive guy, but as a head coach, he was a disaster at Southern Miss. And again, a very difficult hire for the Jets. A very difficult resume hire in terms of saying, here's our guy. Because when you tell someone what you like about him, what are you going to say? You're going to say, well, he's got good ideas. That's all you're going to want. That's what you're going to come out of this with. I think he has good ideas because on paper, they don't match up to Mike McCarthy. They can't match up. Now, the goal is to win a Super Bowl. Nobody has ever done that. But when I brought that up, and I've been bringing that up for years and years and years, that you got to watch because what has happened is most of the times the guys who have been major winners who go run another franchise, they get complete control, they get astronomical contracts. And look at like Gruden, got $100 million contract, complete control of the franchise. You got to watch putting the keys in his hands. That's what I'm talking about. If you just hire a regular coach, would I hold it against him that he's, let me worry about that he hasn't won another Super Bowl. Guys have gone to different Super Bowls with different teams. Guys have taken over. McCarthy looks a lot like Holmgren did. And Holmgren went to Seattle and took them to a Super Bowl and should have won it. So he looks a lot like Holmgren. Really does. If you want to look at someone, he looks a lot like Holmgren's career. Rocco in Freehold. What's up, Rocco?
Hey, Mike. Mike, this is driving me nuts. Are they going to really hire Matt Rhule to be the coach?
You know what? Right now, if you put a gun to my head, this moment, ask me who they're hiring, I think they're hiring Matt Rhule because I think the McCarthy thing.
Oh my God!
Because I think the McCarthy thing would have been done already.
Mike, I mean, how can they go from from Todd Bowles to Matt Rhule, and the fan base is
gonna go crazy?
How can they do this to the fan base?
Well, listen, I can't sit here and defend Matt Rhule, because the reason Matt Rhule's getting hired has nothing to do with the things I've seen. It would have to be things that they heard in that meeting, because his resume does not lend you to him being the head coach of the team. It just does not. When you're going to compare it, say, to a Mike McCarthy, here's his career. Takes over at Temple as a head coach in 2013, and he does the things you expect at Temple. He takes over a 2-10 team, goes 2-10, then he goes 6-6, then he goes 10-4, then he goes 10-3. Did a good job. Did not coach the Temple bowl game in 16. Did not coach the bowl game. Okay? Now, goes to the Bears, takes over a bad franchise, bad team, bad program. They go 1-11, and then this year they go 7-6. Okay. Improvement. He is a lifetime 36-40 coach on the college level. He's been a coach for 6 years on the college level. Before that, he's got 1 year of NFL experience. 1 year. He was at he was at UCLA, Western Carolina, Temple as an assistant. And then he went to the Giants for 1 year and worked on the offensive line in 2012, and then went to Temple as the head coach. That's it. Now, is he a New York guy? Yes. Grew up in New York City before he moved to State College. He was a linebacker at Penn State. Played 4 years for Paterno. 4 years. He was I want to say a linebacker, but I'm not positive that he was a linebacker. I think he was a linebacker. If I remember right, he was. If I remember him there, he was a linebacker. If I remember. But the guy is a guy who obviously is a New Yorker. Went to Penn State. Did a nice job with Temple. Struggled at Baylor, only been there 2 years. And now I'm sure he had to interview very well if he does get this job. And you want to tell me he's a leader? You're going to listen. If you're hiring him, you're going to tell me that he's a leader and he's got some special quality and he's got a vision. That's the things you're going to hear. Yes, he was a linebacker at Penn State. That was the position. He's 43 years old, born in New York. And so there you go. Again, only 43 years old. Very tough. Even if he's an impressive individual, and I don't know him. I do not know him. Even if he is one, it's still a tough resume to sell to the Jet fans. It's going to be a very tough resume, as any of these resumes would be, other than McCarthy's. Frank in Hawthorne. What's up, Frank?
Hey, Mike, what's going on?
What's
I just wanted to get your perspective on, offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators that are still in the playoffs now, that are interviewing for head coaching positions, and how you think it affects their teams now.
They don't. The way they set it up, they don't let it affect the teams now. They don't. They used to worry about that. They've set it up now pretty orderly fashion of when they can talk to them and when they can't, and when they're off limits. And it really doesn't impact the teams that badly anymore. Now you can say, oh, the guy's thinking that he's out of it this year, so out there this year. But look, in the divisional teams right now, none of the guys that we know of are right now on those teams. Not one of the guys that we know of. Every guy who's been hired already, and all you have left are the Jets in Miami, no one is being considered off one of those teams right now.
Even the offensive coordinator from Kansas City, he's out of the loop.
Bieniemy, I think, is staying. I think Bieniemy is out of the mix.
Gotcha.
I think Bieniemy has decided to stay at Kansas City. He's only been a coordinator for 1 year. I think he is out of the mix right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you thought it affected the players.
I don't think they allow that to happen. I don't think it affects them. I really don't. I don't think I think at times they used to worry about that. I don't think it's an issue anymore. I really don't. I think the way they schedule them now, it's really been worked out pretty well. Matt in Brooklyn, what's up, Matt?
Mike, I don't want no Mike McCarthy. I don't want no Mike McCarthy. I don't want no Matt Rhule.
Who you want?
They can't do it. They can't do it, Mike.
Well, who do you want?
I think it's very obvious. Mike, and they haven't even interviewed the guy, and it shows the patheticness of the New York Jets right there. I hope they're listening to the show. There's one candidate, Mike, the best Jet coach. I'm a former season ticket holder. I gave up the tickets, Mike. When they got rid of this guy, I gave up the tickets. So now you know who they should bring back. It's time to bring back Rex Ryan.
Oh, come
they
on.
all know it. 2 AFC championship teams.
Matt, come on now. You're being silly. You know that. Jerry and Rye, what's up, Jerry?
Boy, thank God I'm not a Jet fan. But, Mike, what the whole thing, when I went to the Yale Bowl and I saw Joe Namath do that bootleg, what, are the Jets going to get to the Super Bowl when I die? I've been hoping all my life for a Jet-Giants Super Bowl. Now, of course, we could talk about the Clemson game. Remember, my last call, I talked about Trevor. I'll tell you, that kid was terrific. I know you watched the game. I haven't talked to you.
No, I didn't see it. What happened? No.
What?
I didn't see it. What happened? I didn't see it. What happened?
Well,
I'm kidding. Okay. Yeah, but listen, let me tell you something about the game, to be fair. He was really good, but their wide receivers were even better. They made catches on balls that were not that well thrown, that were insane. I mean, they didn't drop. They made catches low, high, up, down, in, out. I mean, those receivers, it was like they had stickum on their hands the way they were catching the ball. I couldn't believe those catches were unbelievable.
But, I mean, the kid looks...
Well, the kid's a freshman. He's got amazing talent. He's 6'6". He's got a great arm. I mean, listen, everyone knows he's going to be really good.
Can you picture him with an NY on the side of his?
I can picture him on any
Odell
team.
Beckham.
Listen, you can usually see those guys. You can usually see those guys a mile away coming. You can see him just like you can see Peyton Manning or you can see John Elway. You can see this guy a mile away. Absolutely.
And he's got the look. I mean, he's got the charisma. He's in.
But he's got years to play yet, though. I mean, he's not in anywhere yet. He's got a lot of college left. That's what he's got. He's got 2 more years of college to play. He's a pure freshman. He's got 2 more years. I mean, will he be good? Absolutely. I think Tua's going to be terrific also. Now, Tua's not as big as he is. He's a prototype. He is an absolute prototype. He reminds me of Peyton Manning. He really does. And Peyton didn't have that kind of success. See, it's not about the success in the bowl games because John Elway never went to a bowl game. Dan Marino's team played terribly the last year he played in a bowl game. Peyton Manning did not have a lot of success in Tennessee. That didn't make them good or bad. That didn't make them the guys they were. It's not always that. It's not always that because, hey, the Texas quarterback, how good was he in the bowl games? Unbelievable. Did he turn out to be a great pro? No. Anthony in Middletown, what's up, Anthony?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
What's happening?
As a diehard Jet fan, I want to be opposed to Gase or Rhule. The only thing that scares me about McCarthy is I don't want Dom Capers or McAdoo on his staff. Do you think that he would bring those guys in?
Well, I honestly can't say. I don't think he would bring McAdoo. I don't know about.
When has Green Bay ever had a good defense ever?
Never. I would not introduce Capers myself. I would go in a different direction.
And I like.
But let me ask you something. With Rhule,
Sure.
What do you know about him?
Well, nothing, obviously. But I know that he's a Jet fan. That's all I know.
My point is, the guy's 43. With a very light resume, so you're rolling.
I'll take that over. I'll take that over a staff of Don Capers and Matt Mack.
Well, how can you take that over a coach though that's won 8 division titles, 50 something games over 500,
but they never had a big time team. I never thought they had a big time team.
They won 8 division titles.
But I want to win championships, Mike. I don't want to win division titles.
Wait a second, you haven't won anything. First, you got to win something.
So let's
first of all, you got to find a coach that you can keep for a decade.
I agree with you there.
If you're telling me right now that you wouldn't sign for the success Mike McCarthy had in Green Bay?
Of course I would sign for it, but now...
Of course you would. So, I mean, that's your resume that you have. Rhule, you have no resume. You can't tell me you know anything about this guy. No one does. That's what happens when you hire someone like this. You might be right, you might be wrong. They don't know. They don't know. There's no knowing with these guys. The only time you can tell me you know is if your coach has a legitimate body of work. Because you can't tell who's going to be a good head coach or not. I can give you the chapter and verse of all the great guys who were set up to be perfect head coaches and failed miserably. From North Turner, from Bill Arnsberger to North Turner to Dave Wannstedt to Romeo Crennel to Josh McDaniel. Go down the list. There's no automatic push a button and this guy's the real thing deal. You don't know. You don't know. When Modell had Belichick in Cleveland, when he was hired in New England, Modell, who had spent his life in the NFL, said to Kraft, "You just hired the worst coach I've ever seen." How'd that work out? So you don't know. A lot of times you don't know about these guys the first time. How about Pete Carroll? Before he hit it big, he was fired twice. Twice. He didn't get fired once, he got fired twice. You just don't know. The Giants are ready to push Bill. If Howard Schnellenberger had been available, the Giants would have fired Bill Parcells after this first season. Paul Brown, the father of modern football, considered by everybody to be the greatest mind as far as thinking the game of all time, passed on Bill Walsh as a head coach and gave the job to Tiger Johnson because he thought Bill Walsh was too up and down. Passed on Bill Walsh. The idea that you know, you don't know. Now, if the Browns offered McCarthy the job and said, "All right, it's your job, but you got to take Freddie Kitchens as your offensive coordinator," then why would you take the job? You're basically saying, "Hey, that's the relationship you're building on." Mike's not the other side of the ball. When Papa George went to Ditka and said, "Mike, you got to keep Buddy Ryan as your defensive coordinator," Mike's like, "Well, I'm an offensive coach anyway, so I'm fine with that." But McCarthy's an offensive coach. You can't give him an offensive coordinator and tell him that Kitchen gets to run his system. What about Mike? Mike's got no say then. Mike can't take that job. So is it McCarthy? Is it Rhule? Is it some candidate we don't know about? That's the story of the day. Back after this.
It's